He stepped onto the AGT stage, not as a polished showman, not as a polished performer with thousands of training hours, but as a barefoot Filipino kid clutching his heart, his eyes shining with pride and love for a nation thousands of miles away, ready to honor the Lupang Hinirang in front of millions and leave even Simon Cowell's famously stoic face trembling with emotion. If you feel the fire of dreams, if you believe that courage can outshine fear, then you need to hear this story and subscribe now to be part of every unforgettable moment that follows. The moment he walked into the audition room, the energy felt different. It was electric in a way that buzzed in his veins and made his heart thump like a drum. At 14 years old, Jayden Santos already understood that life would not hand him anything without a fight. Born in a crowded barangay in Cebu City, his family's means were modest, their days defined by hard work and quiet, hopeful prayers. From the time he was old enough to walk, Jayden moved in rhythm with the vibrant sounds of jeepneys, the chatter of vendors, and the laughter of children playing under the sunlight. But it was his grandmother's soft hum of Lupang Hinirang that etched itself into his spirit, a song that became his compass, reminding him who he was and where he came from. When Jayden's parents emigrated to the United States for work, leaving him with his Lola, every letter and every video call ended with his grandmother singing their national anthem. Jayden learned it not just as a song but as a declaration of identity, resilience, and unshakable pride. In his high school, Jayden was known as the quiet kid who always listened first and spoke second. His classmates didn't know that beneath his calm exterior lived a fire strong enough to light up stages. When he first watched America's Got Talent on television with his cousins, he saw performers from all walks of life pursuing dreams that seemed bigger than the world itself. He watched the judges lean back with arms folded, waiting for magic. He watched crowds rise to their feet in thunderous applause when that magic unfolded. Jayden didn't yet know that someday, this would all become his reality. The journey from Cebu to the AGT audition was not a straight path. After his parents secured their papers and sent for him, the culture shock of a bustling American city threatened to swallow him whole. Jayden struggled with English at first, feeling like an outsider in a classroom filled with jokes he couldn't understand and references he couldn't catch. It was during the long nights, when he felt most alone, that he would close his eyes and hum Lupang Hinirang, imagining his grandmother's warm smile. That melody grounded him, reminding him that he was not just any immigrant kid, he was a son of the Philippines, carrying a legacy of courage and heart. Jayden began participating in school events, shyly at first, until one day his music teacher heard him sing Lupang Hinirang at a Filipino Heritage Month assembly. The room was filled with students and parents who had never heard the melody sung with such purity and emotion. When he finished, there was silence, pure, reverent silence, followed by thunderous applause. His teacher, Ms. Rivera, encouraged him to pursue opportunities beyond the school auditorium. At her urging, Jayden submitted an online audition video to America's Got Talent, but with trembling fingers, he changed his mind and deleted it 3 times, convinced his voice wasn't good enough, that his dream was too big, that the world wouldn't understand a rousing anthem sung in a language many wouldn't know. It wasn't until a sudden diagnosis for his grandmother back in Cebu jolted him that everything changed. Lola's letter arrived, written with careful Filipino script, telling him to seize his opportunities because dreams waited for no one. Sing with your heart, it read, and the world will hear you. That night, Jayden sat at his desk, tears blurring his vision, and finally hit send on the audition video. He uploaded Lupang Hinirang sung with fierce pride, not just as a melody but as a message of hope for everyone who ever felt small in a big world. Weeks later, when the acceptance arrived, his whole family gathered in their living room. The moment Jayden saw his name on the screen, he screamed with unfiltered joy, his voice cracking with emotion. His parents cried, and even his younger sister, who usually tucked her emotions away, sobbed uncontrollably. The news traveled fast through their community, and soon neighbors, friends, and classmates were offering congratulations and support. Social media buzzed with anticipation. For the first time in his life, Jayden felt the weight of possibility lift like a sunrise breaking through a long night. Walking backstage at the AGT audition, he felt the nerves ripple through him like an electric current. He looked at the polished stage lights, the towering curtain, and the murmurs of the crowd. His heart pounded and his palms sweated, but there was a quiet calm rooted deep within him. He remembered his grandmother's words, "Sing with your heart." When his name was called, Jaden stepped into the spotlight and faced a sea of faces, thousands of miles from the Philippines, yet he felt the presence of his homeland in every fiber of his being. As he opened his mouth and began the opening notes of Lupang Hinirang, the auditorium fell into a hush so profound that you could hear the echo of a sigh. His voice was pure and resonant, carrying with it a depth of feeling that words fail to capture. At first, some in the audience were puzzled by the unfamiliar melody. But as the notes rose, as the beauty of the anthem unfolded, hearts around the room began to tilt, their expressions shifting from curiosity to awe. Cameras panned to Simon Cowell, who had seen countless acts, expected to remain impassive. But on that day, his stern gaze softened, his eyes glistened, and for the first time in his AGT tenure, he looked truly moved. Just as Jaden reached the crescendo, where pride and passion fused into an almost spiritual resonance, a twist came that no one saw coming. The backdrop screens, initially set to display simple lights, unexpectedly flickered and then bloomed into breathtaking imagery of the Philippine archipelago. Emerald rice terraces, golden sunsets over pristine beaches, and the vibrant festivals where dancers moved like living jewels. The audience gasped, not expecting this visual tribute, and Jaden, caught in the moment, felt his breath hitch with wonder. At first, he thought it was technical glitch, but then realized it had been coordinated by his friends and supporters, who wanted to show the world where his heart truly belonged. The visuals added a depth to his performance that transcended mere song. It became a journey, a story of a nation's soul shared on one of the world's biggest stages. Tears streamed down faces in the crowd. Judges sat mesmerized, their expressions a mix of admiration and emotional vulnerability. Simon Cowell, who rarely lets his guard down, leaned forward, clasping his hands, his breath catching like he was experiencing something profoundly personal. When Jaden finished, the auditorium erupted. The applause was thunderous, a standing ovation that seemed to echo into eternity. Jaden closed his eyes, overwhelmed by love, by pride, by the realization that his voice had bridged oceans, language barriers, and cultural divides. Simon stood first, followed by the other judges. When the host announced that all 4 judges had hit the yes button, the crowd roared again. But what struck everyone most was Simon's reaction. He walked up to Jaden and said, "That was one of the most moving performances I have ever witnessed in my life. You honored not just your country but the spirit of music itself." There was no flippant remark, no casual critique, just raw respect and heartfelt admiration. But the emotional journey didn't stop there. A day after the audition aired, social media exploded. Tweets trended worldwide. Celebrities and influencers shared clips of Jaden's performance, praising his courage, his voice, and the beauty of Lupang Hinirang. Filipino communities across the United States organized watch parties. Philippine embassies sent messages of pride. News outlets interviewed Jaden, where he spoke not just about singing but about the importance of heritage, identity, and the power of honoring one's roots in a global world. However, another twist emerged when some critics questioned whether performing a foreign national anthem on an American talent stage was appropriate. They argued that such a performance might not resonate with the broader audience. But in response, countless fans rallied behind Jaden, writing heartfelt essays and messages about diversity, inclusion, and how art transcends borders. The debate only amplified the conversation and drew more attention to his performance. What some thought would be a limitation became a powerful testament to cultural pride and unity. Days passed and Jaden's journey continued. He was invited to perform at charity events, cultural festivals, and school assemblies. Every time he sang Lupang Hinirang, he dedicated it to his grandmother, to his parents, and to every young dreamer who ever felt their voice might never be heard. Jaden's story inspired thousands, not because he won every competition, but because he dared to share his truth on the biggest stage he could imagine. On the night of the AGT finals, Jaden returned to the stage not as an underdog but as a beacon of pride for millions. The crowd stood again, cheering, screaming his name. When he began his final song, a new piece he wrote blending Filipino rhythms with soulful American influences, the world watched as cultures converged, creating something wholly new and beautiful. It was a celebration of heritage and a triumphant declaration that identity is strength, not a barrier. And so, as this story reaches you, remember this: a Filipino kid once stood on a world stage and honored his homeland with a song that stirred hearts across continents. He showed that pride in where you come from does not dim your light but makes it shine brighter. If you were moved by his courage, his passion, his unwavering belief in the power of music and heritage, then make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss what he does next.